Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting with the webinar now. Welcome to uExcelerate latest webinar on reflective practices of coaching supervision. I'm your host, Kanika Gupta, and let me walk you through a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Today's session will last for 60 minutes. The final 15 minutes is going to be a Q&A session with our audience. So if you have any questions for our speaker during the session, then please leave them in the Q&A box and we will put those questions to him to answer in the last 15 minutes. To begin with the coaching supervision, the coaching industry has grown at a remarkable rate over the past decade, with people from diverse array of occupational backgrounds entering the profession. As a result, it has become essential to establish high standards of competency and professionalism in the industry that has few barriers to enter. Therefore, coaching supervision becomes essential for continuous professional development for any coach. Initially, a coach engages with supervision to simply satisfy the requirements of professional body. However, experience suggests that once the coach has undertaken supervision, they see the value of supervision and what it brings to them and their coaching practices. With this thought, let's begin the webinar by welcoming our speaker for today's session. Welcome, Mr. CN Murthy.
Thank you.
I welcome you, and to start with his introduction, Mr. CN Murthy is a transformational coach with a holistic approach to bring about change that matters to individuals. He specializes in upskilling leaders for high executive presence, including gravitas, real communication, and presence. He is a certified facilitator for accountability culture change by Partners in Leadership USA and on collaboration skills by Dialogue Works USA. He has a diverse work experience with brands like ITC and many other large MNCs. And he was the past president in ICF Mumbai chapter. And he's also an independent director on board of Motilal Oswal Financial Services Limited. He's also a management consultant, leadership executive, and business coach at CN Consulting. With his wealth of knowledge and experience in the area of personal mastery, emotional intelligence, change management, and professional and leadership development, he has brought a positive change in many individuals. I welcome you, sir, again. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Saita. Just give me a moment where I just share my screen. Okay, just give me a moment, please.
Sure, sir.
Okay, so can everybody see my screen in the right bits? So
yes, visible.
Okay, thanks for that. All right, so we are a nice small group out here, and just the right size if you think about it. So may I make a small request before we move along? It'll be great to see your faces. So if it's not asking for too much, may I request everybody to put on get on the video cameras, and let's have your faces to sort of bring life into the next few minutes, right? Thanks, Shivani. Thanks, Nat Shelley. I got that. I hope I got that right. Okay. So it's a little difficult for me to see everybody's faces on a screen when I have my slide deck up and running. But what we are going to be talking about is something that is becoming very, very useful for coaches to continue their learning and not very well known. I got into this into process of coaching supervision basically because it was a mandatory requirement that was spelled out by an organization in UK who engaged me as a coach. So I had the opportunity of being supervised by probably one of the greats in the supervision world, Nick Smith himself. Okay, and the sort of impact it had on me and the learning that I got just being with Nick for 1 hour was amazing. It really was awesome. And that's when I decided, let's go and try and pick up a lot more and try and see what the supervision is all about. Okay, so here's my thing. So I'm going to just ask a question. Please use your chat box, or you can unmute yourself and share. When you see this word supervision on the screen, what does it connote for you? What thoughts come to your mind when you see the word supervision? Oversee. Okay. Guidance. Anything else? How about a few more? Direction. Shivani, thank you for that. Being observed. So you see, supervision is this: overseeing, its guidance, being observed, and yes, it gives you a sense of comfort too. And may I ask you, Ajit, how does the word supervision give you a sense of comfort? Could you just share that? Unmute yourself and speak.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, sir, for this wonderful platform, which we are hearing such pearls of wisdom from you today, and I'm really blessed. It means to me that when you're under supervision, you have somebody to go to if you're lost. It kind of gives you a rudder, like a ship has a rudder or a boat has a rudder. So the supervision gives you a rudder. It's like a rudder who keeps you in the right direction.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. Now I'm going to just flash another word: reflection. So when you see this word reflection, what does reflection bring up for you? So Sarita, reflection plus direction. So what does reflection bring up for you? When you just think of the word reflection? Thinking through, validation of thoughts, learning from experiences. That's brilliant, Sarita. Any other quick thoughts, 1 or 2 of them? Unmute yourself and speak. We are a small group, so it'll be good to hear your voices too. Okay, all right. So it's validation of thoughts, it's thinking through, learning from experiences, you're thinking. And now, when you look at these 2 words in conjunction, supervision and reflection, and I now put in a word, supervision. What happens now? How do you see supervision and reflection in the word supervision?
Getting more clarity into yourself, getting that additional insight through reflection of self, and also from the supervision observations.
Beautiful.
So it would mean to me, it would connote to me more self-confidence.
More self-confidence. Okay. And Ajit, can you just share a little more about that?
Because when you have the right supervision and your thought process is right, good chances are that you're on the right journey, that you're in the right direction, and that kind of gives you more confidence that you're in the right space.
And you probably see things in a different perspective, right? A vision that you never had before. A supervision. So it suddenly moves away from being overseen, guided, and led to one of, I'm using the process of supervision with reflection to develop a supervision of what I do as a coach in the service of my clients.
Yeah. CN, may I?
Yes, please, Adil.
Yeah. So to me, supervision is more of a looking at a larger picture and looking at it from a bird's eye view, so that I get to pick up those insights which a coach or a coachee may not be able to do that in the conversation.
Absolutely. And therein lies the power of supervision. Okay. All right. So let's just quickly move. I'm a little conscious of the fact that our time is a little limited. So, you know, when I was reading this book by Peter Hawkins and Nick Smith, he talked about three C's that define a good coach: competency, capability, and capacity. The 3 C's. And competencies, we all know. We get marked for our MCC, our PCC, our ACC journeys on competencies. It's actually our ability to use the skills of coaching, the markers of coaching, and the tools of coaching. Now, when we talk about capability, it is not just knowing the skills and the tools, but knowing when to use what, when is presence required, when do I need to stay silent, right? When we talk about a powerful question, do I need to ask a powerful question, or do I need to give the client space and just be in silence? So being able to use all the tools of a coach at the right time, in the right way, and in the right place is capability. Now, when he talks about capacity, he moves away from skills and the doing of a coach, the interactions of a coach, the interventions of a coach. And he moves more towards the being of a coach. The capacity is defined by who am I as a coach, rather than what do I do as a coach. This is where we come up with, you know, our human qualities, a being that comes into space. Things like flexibility, warmth, engagement, imagination, curiosity, all that comes into it, and our ability to invoke these endowments within us is our capacity. Okay? So, understanding that a good coach requires to be, you know, proficient with competencies, have the capability to know what to do when, and also have that capacity to be there for the client. Let's go now back to the subject of supervision. So the purpose of supervision are as these 3. Ensure that the supervisee maintains appropriate professional standards, facilitate the development of a supervisee's professional practice, and it provides support for a supervisee's well-being. Let me give you a personal example of how this helped me. I'll give you a couple of cases where I was coaching a client, and in the first case, here was a gentleman who was a fairly senior executive in an organization, and he had come up from the ranks. No, you know, a formal leadership training or experience or any. It is just through on-the-job experience that he's risen, and he had risen to the level where he was, you know, entrusted with the responsibility of setting up and running a new business for the organization. And the man he was obviously capable. He had built a career for himself, and he was up there. Now, the managing director of the company thought coaching would be good for the gentleman. And we had our coach connect. We connected well. He came in for coaching sessions. And one thing I kept noticing, in spite of having been, you know, after a proper contracting where I had gone through an explanation of what coaching is all about and how coaching is co-creating a solution and all that. When I'd start a session and ask him, what do you think will be of value for you in this session? What would you like to explore? He would just sit back and say, tell me, you tell me. And it would stump me. And I wouldn't know what to do. So I would try to draw him out through again and get him into more of that reflective space, trying to work out what his goals were. And I'd start contracting for goals. And a session would go. Come the next session. So what would be of interest to you? What would you like to explore in this session? Sits back and back to the same question. No, you tell me. And I say, but look, it's about you. It's what do you want to bring for exploration? And I'd have a long conversation with him about that. And he would talk after a while and say, you know, I have a very short temper. I lose my cool with people. I need to be more understanding and not given to my emotions or some such. And then he would follow up with another line. No, but that's okay. I'm all right. So tell me, what do you think we should talk about? 5 sessions of this experience lasted 5 sessions. And at the end of the 5th session, I gave up. And I said, man, is this going anywhere? Is this of any value to you? Is my coaching being of any purpose for you? And if you really do not want to explore, then that's okay. So let's just go and tell the MD that we need to just end this journey and do something else. The man sits back and he got very upset with me. And he says, who tells you that I have not been gaining from these sessions? I have been learning. And there is so much I have learned. I want to continue. And I don't know why you're talking like this. And he just exploded. And so I literally had to beg his pardon and say, oh, okay, so tell me, what would you want us to do? What shall we talk about? But the moment we go back to trying to get him to explore, reflect, and learn on his own, create solutions that come from within himself, there was a stop. He just wouldn't move. That's when I decided I needed supervision. There was obviously something that was going wrong. I was doing something wrong in that session, but I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And I almost gave up. So I called up my supervisor and I said, I need support. So I had this session with my supervisor. And we had a brilliant discussion, reflecting, looking at what I was doing through many eyes, and we will talk a little bit about the eyes of supervision. And then he just asked me one question. Who is this person who's sitting in front of you, and how are you seeing him? And then he talked about the eyes. What was my view of that person? Did I recognize that person as somebody who had strength and ability to come up with his own answers? Or was I trying to prove to him that he needed change, he needed improvement, he needed growth? And the learning I got from that reflection I did was that it isn't that the person did not want to grow. He was scared of admitting that he did not know. Coming up and saying, this is what I want to learn, was an admission of failure for him. And admitting to failure was creating emotions within him that was holding him back. And my supervisor asked me a question. You just mentioned that he had grown right from being from the ranks. He's become the general manager, heading a new division. So what is the energy that you see in that person? And what else do you see other than what you are talking about as growth and development? And I said, I see a person who has learned on his own, who's proud about what he has achieved. And he wants to stay in that space because that is what gives him energy. And the next point of reflection was, could I, as a coach, use this energy that the person feels to help him on his coaching journey? And something clicked in me. And I said, leave it to me. I know exactly what to do. And the next session, I started with not talking about what he would want to explore in the session. I just came up and gave him a lot of appreciation and praise. I talked about the fact that I saw him come in and log on a good 5 minutes before our session. I talked to him about the commitment that I saw in the person, the courage I saw in the person. And I looked at all the things that I had never been looking at in my earlier sessions. Cutting a long story short, the next 3 sessions were absolutely beautiful sessions for the coachee and for me as a coach. That's the power of supervision that I experienced. Okay. I'm not going to be talking too much about these definitions. They are all available on the ICF website, on the EMCC website. And if anybody wants, I can post the links on the chat box later. But this is what is defined. It defines it as the interaction that occurs when a coach periodically brings his or her coaching experiences to a coaching supervisor. Now, what are the key words? Coaching supervision focuses on making it a collaborative learning practice. It's building the capacity of the coach, not the other 2 C's. It focuses on the capacity of the coach. And it does it through reflection. And it also recognizes that the supervisee is himself or herself a professional coach. So creating a safe environment where there is one coach dealing with another professional coach, you need to be focused on creating a safe environment, which is a far bigger task than in a normal coaching sessions. Okay, so this is what a learning journey in supervision is all about. Supervision is just a space. It's a space where a coach supervisee comes in and you as a coach supervisor merely support the coach, the supervisee, to sit at the feet of their own experience. There is nothing that you need to share. There is no, I know I can share, I tell. That's out of the room. It is through total reflection. You're allowing reflection on experience and making that experience a teacher. And teaching whom? Both the supervisee and the supervisor. It's a relational forum where a supervisee learns how to become a reflective practitioner. So it is not, very often when I go across leaders in an industry or whoever else who's trying to look for a coach comes up and asks, what's your coaching model? What's your coaching style? Nobody asks, who are you as a coach? But it's who I am as a coach that matters most to be an effective coach. And that is something one really, really learns when one has this coach supervision experience. So the process just facilitates reflective practice. And you dwell on experience, on the learning that hindsight creates. Okay. And if one looks at it, Hay and Proctor have summarized this beautifully. All coaching supervision practices, the results fall under one of these three heads. You're either developing yourself as a coach. When you come in as a supervisee to a supervisor session, you're developing yourself as a coach. You begin to see the coaching that you are doing in a very different light. You begin to recognize yourself as the person who's coaching in a different light. So that's formative. Normative is about ethical practices and boundaries. You support the coach supervisee on following ethical practices and boundaries. We all contract with organizations, and we say that confidentiality is a must. And yet, there is pressure from the organization, be it the over-manager or the HR, who always wants to know, how is the coaching progressing? And there can be a conflict of ethics there. How do you negotiate with it? There was one particular case I remember where I had just started work with an extremely senior level person. And this poor man had a major problem with a country head. And the other country head was baying for his blood. So the HR head gives me a call and he asks me only one question. He says, CN, how's the coaching going with this gentleman? I know it's early days yet. You've had just 1 or 2 sessions. But I really want to know, because I need something with which I can hold this gentleman who's baying for his blood and hold him back. So please share with me what is happening in your coaching session. And it was a dire situation affecting the interests of my coachee. Now, what do? Do I come up and tell this HR head, he's serious, he's committed, we are moving, things are going right? That's not ethics. I don't talk about what is happening within the room, outside the room. How much can I share with the HR head? And if I do not share, this poor gentleman with whom I'm working is in trouble there. And why did this HR head come to me? Not because he doesn't understand the ethical issues. It's just he wanted to be armed so he could be in supporting the client. Gosh, it got to be so difficult to manage. And that's where supervision helped me. It allowed me to look at what was happening with the HR head, the system, and the client I was working with, who I was just getting to know, just 1 or 2 sessions in a totally different way. It allowed me to look at myself and examine for myself, what were my fears? What did my conscience tell me? Was I just following the wording of an ethical practice? Or was I following my conscience too? And which was more important? So a lot of ways in which you could see the program, the issue. Supervision helps me clarify. Supportive and restorative. I gave you that earlier example. When I went into that supervision session, my head was down, my energy was low, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing as a coach. When I came out, I was back on track. So these are some of the ways in which coaching supervision is of immense help to coaches. A beautiful quote that I always love, I have it up in front of me most often. It's from the book Strangers to Ourselves. The evidence suggests that self-insight is a precious commodity that people believe they possess to a far greater degree than they really do. And if people err in this estimation, it's always towards overestimation. We overestimate our ability to generate self-insight. And that is one of the strongest reasons that works in favor of coaching supervision. Simple things. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And when your perspective changes, the doing is easy. We all know what to do, but we cannot recognize the situation for what it is at a point of time. And that is what is required. So what does supervision do in the net? Here's what supervision does. It just interrupts your coaching practice. You're coaching, you've got into a groove, you're working with it's going good, it's going bad, it's going great, fair enough. But what supervision does is, when you are sitting with a supervisor and you are reflecting on whatever you have begun to notice as significant, as important in your coaching practice, your coaching practice gets interrupted. It just wakes you up to what you are doing. Supervision is that process is actually an irritant. It rubs you wrong. And all your comfort stories that you have been telling yourself go out of the window. And you don't have anymore the comfort of coming up and saying, it's going great, I'm working, 4 sessions are over, I've got 3 more to go. No. It just facilitates the creation of new stories. And I shared with you a couple of examples there. Very often this question comes up, how does coaching supervision differ from, how is it different from coaching? How is it different from mentoring? Okay, so I just put up the slide to very quickly just bring out to you the key things. Coaching is focused on a coachee's goals. We all know. We contract for goals and the goals for a coaching journey. And then we talk about what is important to discuss in the session itself, what makes that important, what's the real issue that will be brought up for a coaching session. So that is coaching. Mentor coaching is about the competencies, the first C that is talked about. It's about the skills of coaching and also about the capability. When to use what skill is the subject of mentor coaching. When we are talking about coaching supervision, the focus is more about who am I, the coach? Can I build my capacity to understand the skills, the tools, know when to use them, all so that I'm in the best service of the client I'm working with. Okay, I'm going to just pause for a moment here to ask if there are any questions. Anything comes up?
I have a question, CN. I'm joining.
Yes,
yeah. How do we measure the impact of supervision?
Okay, that's a very good question. The truth is, the impact of supervision is in how the coachee, the coach supervisee changes one's own perspective. There is no goal. There is no objective for a session, a supervision session. See, in a coach supervision session, as a supervisor and who's sitting there with a coach supervisee, you are just providing a supportive space to the coach who's come in for supervision to just open up, speak, share, and come up with what is important. And then you use, and I will very quickly share some of the ways in which a supervision session works. So that will probably give you more of an insight into how this happens. All you're doing is you are with great curiosity looking at what is being brought up for supervision in different ways, through different eyes. And with curiosity, no judgment, no expectation. And if there is something there which is an insight, it's so. And if no insight comes, that's okay. We go look somewhere else. But in the end, those nuggets of, aha, I got it. Let me share one example. I was there with a coach supervision session with one of my supervisees. And the lady came up and her question was, I know I have to be asking powerful questions in a coaching, in coaching. However, I have this overarching need to share, and I just can't stop from sharing. So what I want to talk about is, how do I just stop myself from sharing? And how do I just bring in, great curiosity to ask powerful questions? And we explored it in many ways. When she asked me that, my immediate reaction was, that's exactly what happens to me. When I'm coaching, I need to share too. And there is this burst of, it happens to, am I right? It happens to most of us. Solutions we have and we want to share. How does one hold oneself back and come up with those wow questions? And we don't have answers. And I said, look, I was very vulnerable. And I said, I have the same problem. And then there was silence for a couple of minutes. And then I said, I want to share something with you. I'm sitting here as a supervisor. And I'm wanting to share. And I don't even know what to share because I still don't know, because I'm still learning to be a good supervisor. But I still want to share whatever I know about this. So how is what is happening between you and me in this room a parallel process to what is happening between you and your coachee? And we explored that. And from that, there was one question that came up. When we talk about powerful questions, what makes a question powerful? Is it powerful for the coachee, or is it powerful for me as a coach? And then we went on to exploring what is a powerful question when you turn it on its head and say a question is powerful when it is powerful for me as a coach. And she came up with a very profound thought. A powerful question is one where when I ask, it brings out my curiosity. So the power in that question is the power to bring out my curiosity. And she just said, I got it. I no longer need to talk. So I've just got to be focused on my curiosity and nobody else. Okay, so I'm going to move quickly if I might, because how much time do we have now? About 20. 10 minutes more and I will move through.
Yes, sir.
So there is a common space between all three, between coaching, mentoring, and supervision. And, I'll tell you, I can't stop doing this. Supervision is just about paying attention to the coaching that we do. It is being a dancing partner with the coach. You're working in supervision. And when you are supervising, or when you're working in a supervision room, basically what is happening is you're dancing from subject to subject. Whatever you identify it, whatever you get attached to, which comes up for you, you notice it. You bring that out, see it from with other perspectives. Take it outside yourself. You withdraw to reflect, to meditate. And in that reflection, you learn how to do your work differently. And that is the purpose of supervision. So what I call it is, it's respectful interpretation of the work we do as a coach. And if we respectfully begin to interpret the work we do, we set up a reflective dialogue. The supervisor reflects, the supervisee reflects, and through that we learn how to do the work we do. So that to me is the essence of what supervision is about. I just got this photograph this morning. Dhananjay Joshi is a very good friend of mine, ace photographer. And he sent me this photograph of a bird, the bronze-winged jacana looking back. And I quickly put this into the deck. To move ahead, one must learn to look back. And a supervision room is where you get this opportunity to look back at whatever you are doing. Okay, so if I have time, I'll put these on the slide decks and it should be available for people.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. We have another 15 minutes, so we can quickly go through the slides and also allow the audience to have the Q&A.
One thing. See, may I do one thing? I'll just quickly take you through about 5-6 slides, which gives you the 7 eyes with which you explore what's happening in a supervision room. But before that, what issues can a coach bring to a supervision session? Mainly the issues that come up are concerns that the coach is facing in his or her practice, challenges, some of which I shared, any surprises that come up. The HR leader in that time really knocked me for a 6, total surprise. Any questions I might have about myself as a coach, or if I have some insight about my coaching and ability to reflect on that and grow that insight. These are all the things that are all fair fodder for a supervision session. Okay. Now, Peter Hawkins provides a model. We've all loved our models in coaching, don't we? The clear model, the grow model, and everything else, right? So this is a famous Peter Hawkins 7-eyed model. And there are 7 eyes with which you as a supervisor can look at what's happening in a supervision room. The first eye is the eye 1, which is that of the client. Who is the client? What are his or her concerns? What is the coaching contract? Okay, how well is it been serving our purpose? So this is from the eye of the client, looking at the client. The second is the coach's interventions. What did you do in the session as a coach? What did you ask as a coach? Did you use any specific tools? Is there anything you did that was effective, or something you did that was not effective? So this is the interaction between the coach and the coachee. Remember, the coachee is not there in the supervision room, yet is a virtual body in the supervision room, because the coach has brought the coachee in through the stories that the coach tells the supervisor. Okay. Then there is the coach-client relationship. How is your relationship with the client? What characteristics, metaphors, analogies would you use to describe the relationship? Focusing on the relationship. Then focusing on the coach per se. What was the coach feeling? What was the coach's emotions? What were the coach's concerns? What happened to you while you were working with a client? What took me to one supervision session was I just got so upset with myself. I said, hey, I mean, how on earth am I even a coach? I'm not even behaving like a coach. I got so upset with myself. I honestly wouldn't have been able to have another coaching session with that feeling in me. I needed a supervision session. Okay. Then,
sir, we have a question from Angelina.
Can I just finish these 2, 3, and then we will get on, please? Just a couple. If you could hold a minute, Angelina.
Yeah, sure.
The I5 is what is happening between the supervisor and the coach supervisee in the supervision room. Okay. And how is this paralleling what is happening between the coach and the coachee in the coaching setup? So that is the I5. I6 is when a supervisor begins to look at the supervisor himself. Okay. While I have been talking to you, I noticed that I have been feeling very restless, pressured to finish this on time. So my effectiveness is gone. So I share that. And how does that impact? So you're talking about the supervisor. I'm getting a picture in my mind of, so you're sharing, you're expressing what is happening within yourself. Okay, so that's the I6. And I7 is when you bring the larger context into place, the systems around the client. Because every coach, every supervisor, every supervisee always works in a system. And the influences of a system are very real. And I7 gets you into observing that, right? And my last one is my belief, which I'm just putting forth for you. It's just a precious time that a coach gives to oneself to grow and be in service of one's clients. Okay. Angelina, I'm sorry I kept you wait, and probably many other questions there, but I'll stop sharing and let's...
Yes, we can have the Q&A round now, and audience can put up their questions in the chat box, or they can come live on the camera and ask the questions.
Yeah, I have this question around I4 and I7. One is context-based, the other one is around emotions of the coach himself or herself. So here the question is that in supervision, why is it always that we discover ourselves as coach in a situation? In one particular scenario, the coach might feel something. In a different scenario, the coach might feel something else. In the two different contexts, the supervisor kind of gave me an experience that I have to discover own myself, the inner blogs in me. That's it. That's all. So that is where I was just little.
Angelina, I'm sorry. Could you tell me a little bit more so I can understand your question a little better? I'm afraid I lost you somewhere.
Okay, so there are two contexts wherein I had a supervision session. In one session, the I4, which has a different emotions of being a coach, was different. And in another context, the same emotions thing was quite different. So why is it always that it is coach inner blogs or discoveries and not around the context thing? So why we have to think around coming from within?
Well, the way I see it, Angelina, is very simple. It's not necessary to be focused upon the emotions of a coach. You focus on the emotions of the coach if the emotions of the coach become pertinent to what is being discussed.
Yes.
And then you look at what were you feeling and how were these emotions either aiding or coming in the way of you being in service to the client. And you're right, our emotions are never static. All emotions are dynamic. In one coaching session, your emotions can go up and down. It's a roller coaster. But as a coach, am I also being able to just glance for a moment at what am I feeling and how is that coming in the way of what I am got to be in the service of my client? So that is it. So there are 7 eyes, but there is no need for you to use all the 7 eyes in a supervision session.
Okay, thank you.
Which eye you use depends upon the context.
Yeah.
And what is being explored at a point of time.
Okay, so it is context-based mostly.
Yeah.
If we have to understand this. Thank you.
I'm not so sure. I'm not sure whether I was able to answer your question or not, but the reality is that it's a free open space to explore or not to explore is a choice.
I can add, Mr. Murthy.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kiran, just reflecting upon what Angelina asked, it came to my mind that the coaching conversation seems to be for a purpose of discovery for the coach. And we all coaches always say this also, that there is so much I evolved by the end of that coaching conversation. That's my discovery of myself. The same I sense because I was lucky to participate in some supervisory sessions. I believe the same happens in a supervisory session. The coach becomes the coachee kind of. There's a discovery, there's a self-discovery. And as you showed in your slide, the supervisor also sometimes end up having a discovery. So I think the analogy of peeling the onions also came to mind. We are work in progress. We continue to peel the onion. So that's what came to my mind. Thanks to Angela for the question and Mr. Murthy for your inputs.
I totally align with what you just said, Kiran. See, a supervision session is an opportunity to learn and to grow. And it is not that the supervisor vises the coach, supervisee. It is their equal. There are two the real needs that is very important for a supervisor to ensure is attention. A supervisor needs to be extremely attentive to using all these 7 ways of being attentive. And knowing that there are 7 ways of being attentive just allows you to take a checklist and say, have I missed something? No more. It doesn't mean that you have to pay attention to all these 7 eyes. But those 7 eyes, if you know it, that's enough. It's like a checklist. Hey, with this eye, is there something more to explore? If so, go there. Otherwise, stop. And the second one is equality. A supervisor and a supervisee, a coach supervisee, are at the same level. They're both coaches. They're both there to support learning. And Kiran, you're so right. This learning is mutual. The coach supervisee learns and the coach supervisor learns in equal measure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the beauty of coach supervision.
So we have another question from Ajit Singh Rao. So how does a coach revitalize himself or herself to reboot and recalibrate? Ajit, if you are there, you can come on the screen and also ask if you have any other additional questions.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, please.
So that was the question. Because often it happens that you get drained out. For me, especially whatever sessions, the coaching sessions are very draining. Yeah, we are supposed to wear a veil and we're not supposed to show our emotions, but checking those emotions is very emotionally draining also.
So true, so true.
Because it's not easy. And there's always this conflict between being a conversational style of coaching or a very tool-based. So I just want to get some insights. I'm a coach who just started a journey recently. So I don't have an answer. And I look forward to getting some thoughts there.
Ajit, it's a very deep question, and yes, you have to wear a veil. But wearing a veil is an action. And the moment you're focused on wearing the veil, you're not in service of your client. And the more you are trying to wear the veil, the more you're distracting yourself. So that these are all the things that actually, it's a very, very fluid and it's gray space there. But in the end, it's all about guardrails. How much of ownership do I take? Do I see my coachee as a person who needs to be helped? Is he helpless? Is he or she helpless? And I am there as a savior to help and work for the client. Then my ownership levels go up and I get more effective. But if I, as a coach begin to see my coachee, or a supervisor sees the supervisee, equally, they're all parallel processes. If we see them as whole, complete, and perfect, they have the answers. But for some reason, they're not able to access those answers. And my job is not to get them the answers. It's only to support them to find their own answers. It is so refreshing and relaxing. Because then you won't have ownership. You have only got one ownership. Do the best I can.
Yeah.
And that anyway
so, sir, sorry to interrupt again, as we are running out of time. We can have just last question for this session from Adhir Mathur. And his question is, can a mentor coach also be a coach supervisor?
Adhir, say that again. Can a mentor coach be a
coach supervisor? Can a mentor coach also be a coach supervisor?
Yes, provided the mentor coach is not stuck to only mentoring practice. So it's all about flexibility, right? Being able to see that when I have to teach somebody grammar, I teach a person grammar. But knowing the rules of a language is not the same as appreciating Shakespeare. So if I'm stuck to being one who's focused on the grammar of coaching, then you're more akin to being the mentor. Whereas if you are going and getting the coach to get to see the beauty of Othello or Julius Caesar or the play that's happening in the room, then you're moved away and you're working with the supervision lens. So it's always possible to move from one to another, but that's where the agility of a coach comes into play.
Thank you so much, CN.
If I can grab just a minute, if it is okay. I wanted to share something.
Please, sir.
Yeah, a quick one. I was connecting that slides, Mr. Murthy, you mentioned about in reality, the moment of truth. HR wanted to know little insights, how the coach was going. If I sense from the HR side, the person says, I'm trying to do some good by stopping that person, by getting some insights, if Mr. Murthy can share, they feel justified. And if the coach, for keeping the relationship on, goes ahead and shares some, thinking that, yeah, let's walk a middle path, and then goes to the supervisor and shares this, what happened. And then the coach supervisor asks those questions, which will get them to feel irritated, interrupted, uncomfortable, out of their comfort zone. So I was sensing the cycle of the coaching philosophy is this, but the moment of truth puts in so many spanners in between that the coach, how he chooses to conduct, I think eventually sets the tone for the future of coaching profession. Maybe.
Kiran, if I might just share with you my deep insight into that particular real life incident that I faced was simple. It got me to ask myself one very simple question. Do I really, truly trust and respect my coachee the way I'm that I want to do, not expected, that I want to do as a powerful coach in a coaching room. Because if there was something else which was bothering me, and I could sense that the HR person was not doing it out of idle curiosity, because the HR person was also working with the interest of my coachee, what was keeping me from being vulnerable and sharing myself, not just with the HR person, but with my coachee, and getting that HR person to also come and recontract with me and the coachee. Because contracting doesn't end because it's done at the beginning of a coaching journey. The whole coaching journey is a contract by itself. You contract right as you're coaching. So what kept me from recontracting with my coachee and the HR head, where three heads got together and said, can we do something so that we are all respectful of each other? And that is it. And it was so liberating for me, and that's the way it worked in the end. I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own.
Moments of truth.
Moments of truth, yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
If the audience have any more questions, you can write to us at info@uexcelerate.com, and we'll share the questions with CN Murthy sir, and he'll be in a place to answer you all. So
thank you.
Thank you to our lovely audience who had tuned in today. And we hope the session was really helpful to each one of you. Thank you, our speaker, Mr. CN Murthy, for giving us your time and for sharing your wisdom with us. If you have any questions, like I've said it before, you can drop an email to us at info@uexcelerate.com, and we'll communicate your questions to CN Murthy sir.
Kanika, may I just make an offer for everybody? You see, I'm also in this process of getting myself credentialed as a supervisor and all. And if any of you wants a supervision session with me, and it's pro bono or a cup of coffee maybe, okay, and I'm available for that. Okay, so just drop in your names, and I'd love to just connect with any of you who wants to experience a coaching session, a supervision session with me. Okay,
yeah,
that's an open offer.
Absolutely, please do that. As sir is there to help you as a coach supervisor. And lastly, to make an announcement that we have another upcoming webinar on 28th July, and that is on like inclusion culture in organizations, how leaders are creating inclusive culture for specially able people. So do tune in on 28th of July at 3 p.m. and we'll share you the invite and see you there. And thank you so much for being lovely audience.